Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 22 male, grew up in a family where my sister Emily, 24 female, was always the golden child. From as early as I can remember, my parents seemed to favor Emily. She was the firstborn, the miracle baby, and the one my parents always doted on. It was always Emily this, Emily that. She could do no wrong in their eyes, and I always felt like I was just there. Our grandmother, Dad's mom, noticed this dynamic and made a point to include me in things, probably because she felt sorry for me. She was the only one who treated me like I mattered. When she passed away 5 years ago, she left a sizable inheritance to both me and Emily. It was specifically earmarked for our education. My parents, being the executors of the will, were supposed to manage this money until we both went to college. I was in high school when she passed, and Emily was already in her first year of college. My parents paid for her college expenses out of the inheritance, which was fine by me, because that was what Grandma wanted. I trusted that when it was my turn, I'd have the same support. Boy, was I wrong. Flash forward a few years. Emily graduates, and I'm getting ready to head to college. I get accepted into a pretty good school, and I'm over the moon. I go to my parents to talk about accessing my college fund, and they get all shifty-eyed. They haw and hem, finally admitting they don't have the money anymore. Why? Because they gave it all to Emily to start her business. Now, don't get me wrong. I support entrepreneurship and following your dreams. But Emily's business is a boutique soap shop. Yes, you heard that right. Soap. Handmade organic soaps. And this isn't even a profitable venture. It's a money pit. My parents had to mortgage part of the house to keep her afloat. They tried to explain to me that Emily had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and that family sticks together. They said since Emily needed the money more, they reallocated my portion of the inheritance. I was furious. I pointed out that it was meant for my education, and they had no right to give it away. But my parents, in their infinite wisdom, said that I could always take out loans and work my way through college like everyone else. I was devastated. My dreams of going to college without massive debt were shattered. I had to take a semester off because I couldn't cover the tuition without the inheritance. Meanwhile, Emily was posing on Instagram about her thriving soap business and taking trips to network across the country. It wasn't just the money. It was the blatant favoritism and betrayal. I felt like my parents never truly saw me as their equal to Emily. I consulted a lawyer who told me I had a case because the inheritance was specifically left to us for educational purposes. If they used my portion for anything else, that was a breach of fiduciary duty. I didn't want to sue my own parents, but I was backed into a corner. I tried to talk to them again, to reason with them, but they were adamant. My dad even said, "You're acting like an ungrateful brat. We're your parents, and we know what's best for you." So I filed the lawsuit. The news of the lawsuit spread like wildfire through our small town. My parents painted me as the greedy, selfish son who was suing his own flesh and blood for money. My extended family was split. Some understood me, while others thought I was overreacting. Emily, of course, played the victim card to perfection. She told anyone who would listen that I was trying to destroy her dreams because I was jealous of her success and that I never supported her from the beginning. My parents kicked me out of the house, saying if I was going to act like an adult and sue them, then I could act like an adult and find my own place to live. So I ended up couch surfing with friends for a while and eventually found a cheap apartment. It was tough, and I won't lie, there were nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering if I was doing the right thing. The court battle was brutal. My parents tried every trick in the book to get the case dismissed. They claimed they had verbally consulted with me about the fund transfer, which was a blatant lie. They even tried to bring in Emily as a character witness to paint me as some kind of reckless kid who couldn't be trusted with money. But my lawyer was good, and we had all the documentation showing the inheritance was explicitly for education. After a few months, the judge ruled in my favor. My parents were ordered to repay the money they had taken from my portion of the inheritance. You'd think this would be the end of it, but it wasn't. My parents couldn't pay back the money. They had already spent it on Emily's business. When they failed to make the first payment, the court ordered a lien on their house. Now they're in danger of losing their home, all because they couldn't let go of their obsession with Emily and her ridiculous soap dream. Emily's business, unsurprisingly, went under a few months later. It turns out there isn't a massive market for overpriced soap in a small town, and she couldn't keep it afloat without more financial support from our parents. She blamed me for destroying the family and ruining her chances at success. She even went to a local radio show to cry about how her selfish brother had driven her to bankruptcy. Now, since my parents can't afford to pay back the money they owe me for my college fund, they had to sell their house. They had their house arrested, so they need to sell it to pay off their debts. So I offered them to transfer the house in my name, and I will let them live there. They were furious, but agreed at the end because they didn't have any other choice, as they would have ended up being homeless. So now I'm actually getting their house. It's a strange feeling. On one hand, I never wanted things to go this far. On the other, this is the outcome of their own decisions. I didn't want things to end up like this. I didn't want to destroy my family. I just wanted what was rightfully mine. I wanted to go to college without the burden of debt, as my grandmother intended. But now, seeing the fallout, I'm torn. Was it worth it? Am I the a-hole? What would you have done in my shoes? OP's parents completely violated OP's grandmother's trust and OP's rights. They had no legal or moral ground to take OP's inheritance and use it for OP's sister's business, especially when it was meant for OP's education. I'm glad OP stood up for himself, and I'm even happier that karma came back around. OP's parents and sister made their bed, and now they have to lie in it. And now let's hear the community's opinion. So, your sister thought selling soap was more important than your education? That's rich. And your parents supported this? Ridiculous. I don't see how you could be the a-hole here. They dug themselves into this mess by playing favorites and making terrible financial decisions. Good on you for taking a stand. Maybe now they'll learn that actions have consequences. Honestly, it sounds like your parents have always favored your sister, and they just assumed you'd roll over and accept it. I think you did the right thing by suing them. They needed a wake-up call. It's sad that it came to this, but they brought it upon themselves. Also, taking money from a charity? That's a new low. You're definitely not the a-hole. Wow, just wow. I cannot believe your parents thought they could get away with this. It's pretty telling that they would jeopardize their relationship with you and their own financial stability just to prop up your sister's failing business. You're 100% not the a-hole, and frankly, I'm glad to see some justice was served here. I hope things get better for you moving forward. My friends are 23 female, 25 female, and 25 female. We have been very close since I was 19 and still in university. I'm very shy and an introvert, so when these girls invited me out one day, I was very happy, and that's how we became friends. They said they felt bad for me, and I appreciate them a lot. I don't have anyone else to call a friend but them. Due to the pandemic, my fiancé and I had to postpone our wedding, but after some talks, we decided to stay trying for a baby. This was about 2 weeks ago, and we're still very excited. I decided to tell my friends since this was a very special thing for me. Out of these friends, Evie, fake name, is the person I'm close to most. I decided to call her up and tell her this, and I found our conversation to be weird. She said that's good, but her tone suggested she was like bored or something. I thought she must be tired and decided to end the call. The next day, all of my friends called me through Zoom, and I thought it was for some of our regular girl nights. Instead, they said that I was being selfish. At first, I didn't understand what was going on, so I thought they were just pranking me. But they said that if I had a baby, they would just block me. They said they couldn't be friends with someone with a kid, and that I was not considering adoption before trying because I was selfish. The thing is, one of our other friends, Ada, fake name, was adopted. In our group, she is very vocal about adopting, and I think Evie made a pact with her to do the same, but I never did that. They said, first of all, that I wouldn't be fun anymore, and that second of all, I was just destroying the environment and lives of unadopted kids by deciding to have my own baby. I was so upset I just cut the call. I have not told anything to my fiancé and I am so confused. I can't help but question my decision, because what if I am a bad person for not taking care of children without homes? I don't want to cause anybody any hurt, but I also feel angry and hurt that they would push me away easily and not respect my choice. I don't know how to talk to them about it, or with my fiance. I don't know what to do about this situation at all. Any advice? I don't think these women are good friends. They're selfish and mean. I'm guessing they have a history of pulling you down or picking you up. It's not selfish to have a baby. I'm also adopted and was adopted rather late in my childhood. I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to biologically have a baby. Talk to your fiance. Let him help you feel better. You're not doing anything wrong at all. All these people are not your friends. They're horrible. I know you might be reluctant to get rid of them because you feel like they're your only friends, but it would be better to not have any than to only have them. And on the plus side, you are about to make a whole bunch of new parent friends as you get ready to have a baby, are pregnant with your baby, and then actually raise your child. So, when I was 14, I became best friends with a girl. Let's call her G. When we were 16, we started dating. Spent all of our time together. Basic teenage love stuff. During this time, I became close with her little sister, V, who was 13. V and I were always friendly with one another. Some teasing, some fighting, but just general kids being kids. So G and I dated for 4 years and ended up breaking up when we were in college because we wanted different things in life. I was fine with having only G as my partner for life, and G felt like she'd be missing out on her girls just want to have fun days. This was obviously a pretty rough time for me, for G, and for our whole friend group. The relationship was basically a corpse for several months, dragging along by our unwillingness to let each other go. She proposed an open relationship several times, and I just couldn't bring myself to agree to it. During this time, V got pretty angry with her sister G because V, by that point, saw me as part of the family. I found out later that V and G got into regular fights about G's inability to commit to me. At the time, V was 17 years old and G was 20, so it's not like V could really force G to do anything. Eventually, G and I broke up, and our 4-year relationship and 6-year friendship came to an end. I felt that the right thing to do was probably distance myself from V as well, because being as close to V as I usually was would mean that I'd never quite leave G's life. This ended up backfiring, as it made V very upset, and she basically interpreted this to mean that V and I were never really friends, and I was only tolerating her for G's sake. Out of guilt, or out of some selfish desire to not lose yet another piece of my life, I acquiesced to V and we stayed friends. This was in 2014. By 2015, V was 18 and I was 21. She came to the same college as I was in, and we were good friends. I always kept some distance with V out of respect to G. This means that no matter how friendly I was with V, I never really talked to her about really personal stuff or my romantic life. She was a good friend, but not a close friend. Then, in late 2015, there was an incident where V behaved extremely jealous towards a girl I was casually seeing. There was another incident in 2016 where V was found to be crap-talking a different girl I was seeing. And when I confronted V about it, V basically confessed that she has developed feelings for me. I shut that down immediately because every part of it felt totally and viscerally wrong. But at the time, V assured me that G was okay with it, and her mom was okay with it too. She puts all her cards on the table and says that while she understands I view her as a kid, she'd like the chance to at least date me and change my mind. Obviously, she succeeded, because as of February this year, she and I are engaged. We've been together for 5 years now, and it's by far the best relationship I've ever been in. The only problem is that it turns out V lied about one thing at the start of the relationship. While it's true that her mother loved me and was totally fine with V dating me, G was never okay with it. In fact, G was very much not okay with it and had been vocal about this with V. G never said any of this to me because she and I were no contact. All of this is coming up now in 2020 because G is over our apartment for the week, and on day 2, yesterday, she gets drunk and blurts out how I upgraded to a younger, prettier model by dating her little sister. V was already passed out by this point, so she has no idea that G said these things to me. But at the time, I got defensive, and said that G was okay with it at the time, so why does it bother her so much half a decade later? Then, G told me the truth about how she was never okay with it, but then she found out that I agreed to give V a chance, and it broke her heart, and she tried to let go of the jealousy she was feeling. And now, 5 years later, she still feels intense pangs of jealousy, all made worse by the wedding planning of our 2021 marriage. G says that she regrets asking me for a breakup, and the single life wasn't worth losing love for. She assured me that she wasn't trying to break V and myself up, or trying to get me back. She said that she just needed me to know how she really feels. She also attributes these feelings of rejection and loss as the cause of her depression, which, incidentally, has derailed her life for the past 4 years. So the times match up, I guess. What's the right move here? Do I tell V about G's confession? Do I pretend like I didn't hear any of this? So, let me get this straight. You dated a girl. You all broke up. Her little sister, who has had a low-key crush on you for years, guilt trips you into staying in her life, ends up at the same college as you, and actively tries to ruin your relationships by crap-talking other women and acting catty, jealous towards them. You decide to entertain her crush, even though you didn't know about it the whole time, by going on a date with her. She lies to you and says her sister is okay with it. You all are now engaged and you are upset with her older sister, the one you dated first, for telling you drunkenly that she was upset and never okay with it. Does G have buyer's remorse? Perhaps. Was it just alcohol magnifying her feelings? Probably. But she isn't in the wrong. V lied to and manipulated you, then lied to her own sister, G, and manipulated her so she could have you. I know you are in love with V, as evidenced by the fact that you are engaged. But please understand this. V plotted, manipulated, lied, and schemed to be with you, and hurt her own sister in the process. For years. This is an issue, and honestly speaks to selfishness or, at the very least, emotional immaturity. Did G's confession come at a bad time? 100%. And what else could she really say? But the person you should be mad at is V. Her immaturity is showing, and her actions make it seem like she's the young girl you knew growing up. You can no longer trust her to give you the truth at face value. She kept this huge secret for years, and again, actively tried to ruin your other relationships. That's not romantic. It's creepy. If she was this determined to have you, who knows what else she would say, do, to get what she wants in the future. I'm not saying V is evil, but I would really deeply consider your future with her. Update. So, yesterday morning I sat V down and told her what had happened. G was away at this point, so I had the privacy for a real conversation. A lot of people in the last post really mistook what kind of person V is, in my opinion. V isn't some kind of evil mastermind that was playing me, her mother, her sister, and everyone else like puppets dancing on her strings. When I met her, she was an earnest kid, and she grew to be an honest but determined teenager at the time that we started dating. I mention this so that people understand that this conversation wasn't an interrogation. I just wanted to know what she thought about what G said. As it turns out, the truth is always somewhere in between, and I've learned a lot of new information. I just let her speak and get everything off her chest. I didn't interrupt to ask for clarification or interject to argue at any point. The way I'm going to write this down is probably annoying to read, but it's the way I process them. New. Totally new information. Confirmed. Info G told me that V confirmed. Messy. Info G told me that wasn't fully honest. New. V's been in love with me for longer than I thought. G and I were planning on taking her to the carnival in town on her 14th birthday, along with her group of friends. But G got sick, and V was starting to get sick, so they figured the whole plan was canceled. I don't remember much of this event, but she remembers that I cheered her up and convinced her to go to the carnival. So it was me plus V's friends. And when V would get tired or need to sit down and rehydrate, I'd sit with her. She remembers that one of her friends was flirting with me, and at one point, she gave me a compliment, and I redirected the compliment to V, and it made V feel like $1,000,000. Says this was the night she fell in love. Confirmed. G suspected V. Number 1. I used to shower at G's house once in a while, especially during summer vacation. This only used to happen after pickup games if G wanted to hang out afterwards. I'd leave dirty laundry here for G to throw into the wash. Turns out, V started helping her later on, and G noticed that V only helped her when my dirty clothes were in the hamper, never on a normal day. Confirmed. G suspected V. Number 2. Senior year of high school, I took art history. I didn't give a crap about the class, but V was super interested in hearing from me about it. Turns out, G caught V researching my class topics several times so that V could hold conversations with me. Confirmed. G suspected V. Number 3. G knew that V would put on makeup and tidy herself up every time I came to visit G. Even if I'm just picking G up to take G out, V'd come downstairs with makeup on to chat with me for a bit before I left. I didn't mention to V that I didn't notice at all. Messy. G opposed V's feelings, then came around. So V told G earnestly about her feelings for me before she even told her mom. This was 6 months after G's and my relationship ended. G got pretty heated at this, and a week later V told G. There was an incident between the sisters where G basically chewed V out. G then told V that I'd never fall for V. This was when V basically called G out and said that G wouldn't ever be happy for me. In this conversation, G explicitly said that if, by some miracle, I said yes to V, then G would put her tail between her legs and admit she was wrong. G later, 1 month-ish, apologized about how she spoke to V and said that if V truly loved me, she was happy for V. Messy. G encouraged V to confess to me. The next big episode regarding me came the month that V confessed to me. V and I were in a bit of a fight because I didn't like how she had behaved with a girl I was friends with benefits with. V was crying at home, and G basically encouraged V to rip the band-aid off and tell me how she feels. This way, if I rejected V, V can at least move on. V asked G if that's really okay, and G said yes. Messy. G was happy and scared when V was about to confess. In a conversation the evening that V was going to tell me her feelings, V and G spoke again over the phone. V remembers that G made a very iffy joke that suggested that G was hurting. V paused the convo and asked G if G really was okay with this. G backpedaled and insisted it was just a joke, and said she was excited for her little sis. V remembers the joke comment being something like, "Good luck getting the love of my life." So that's it. The truth is more complicated, I guess. Turns out that V had feelings for me a long time ago. Things like falling in love with me for taking her to a carnival on her birthday seem dramatic and immature in retrospect, but it's important bits that make up a bigger truth. Also turns out that G had small nagging suspicions over the years. But most important is that it turns out when I was single and V was working up courage to make a move, G wasn't actually in opposition. G ended up being a good sister and encouraging V to chase what she wants. What further complicates things is that G used to express some insecurity around her body and how much more beautiful, read right curves, V was, back during the last 2 years of us dating. I dismissed these insecurities and I used to laugh them off, because at the time, G was 18 and V was 15. How does an 18-year-old even compare herself to a 15-year-old? I didn't know that there was this underlying sentiment of competition over the years. To spend years feeling jealous of your little sister must have been torture. This was the least dramatic way I could think to resolve this, since G, either deceitfully or genuinely, doesn't remember any of her confessions to me. I'm going to let sleeping dogs lie, I think. V is perfect, and I wish I could go back in time and take away the heartache she must have felt over the years as some insecure kid not knowing if I'd ever love her or not.